Concord has been a complete and utter disaster for Sony, and while we initially thought that this lost them a heck of a lot of money, that number may be doubled because, according to rumors, it cost them $400 million in development and was even codenamed Chaos behind the scenes. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, nothing could really surprise me when it comes to Concord just because we've seen so many disasters over the past couple of years, but if this number is true, it is the largest video game disaster that we have ever seen by far. This is a minimal effort article. It says it's only been a few weeks since the ill-fated hero shooter Concord went offline, yet the more we find out about this doomed game, the more one has to wonder what Sony was thinking when they purchased Firewalk Studios in 2021. This actually isn't completely true. In 2021, Sony started partnering with Firewalk Studios and came to a publishing deal. They only bought them in 2023, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day simply because they were working together in 2021, and it's speculated, significantly longer than that, just not in an official capacity. It says Concord famously launched with a $40 price tag and a non-existent player base, both of which seem to seal its fate rather rapidly. I didn't think the $40 price tag was the reason why this died. I personally would much prefer buying a $40 game instead of having to deal with a free-to-play title that has predatory monetization schemes and, microtransactions, whether it is skins or boosts and buffs. I would rather pay the $40 upfront, and I know a lot of other people would agree. It's just that this game did not bring anybody in. It looked terrible, it played terrible, and even when we thought it was $200 million with, the only couple of years that Sony had put into it, and we didn't even, know what the budget was before that because this game's been in development for 8 freaking years. It just seemed like there was such a small amount of content for the amount of money and also the development time. And now that's basically, twice as bad as we expected, because the rumor is that it cost a whopping $400 million to make, and that doesn't even include what they paid to acquire Firewalk. So that means that this is probably a $500 to $600 million disaster in totality. It is the largest video game failure that we have ever seen. Now, of course, $500 to $600 million is not the most expensive acquisition in game development costs that we know of. We know that GTA 6 has gone well over $1 billion in development. It's rumored that they're up to $2.5 billion. Of course, that'll make billions of dollars and they'll make their money back easy. And even Elder Scrolls 6, it's rumored that they've spent over $1.5 billion in development costs. So not the most expensive of all time, but definitely up there. It says Colin Moriarty, aka Long Island Viper, revealed that a credible insider spoke to him regarding the chaos that unfolded behind the scenes. Of course, like I always say, take everything you hear on the internet with a grain of salt. We're talking about an individual discussing this with an insider. We do not know who that insider is, what their position at the company was, if they even worked at Firewalk or it's secondhand knowledge, but he says it's very credible or else he wouldn't have shared it. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but the insider would also claim that Concord was protected by toxic positivity within the team at Firewalk, so much so that nobody was able to speak out regarding their potential concerns regarding anything that might not bode well for this game. This is the worst situation possible because, yes, I understand there are developers who have a lot of faith in what they're creating, but at the same time, they're not creating games for themselves. They're creating a game for an audience. And if somebody on the team feels like, hey, this isn't going to bode well with our audience, they should be able to discuss it. We hear so much in the video game industry about people wanting to foster, positive environments, and they do not want any toxicity in the workplace. But the companies that spew that usually are the worst. forecast and they are projecting. And it seems that that is exactly what happened with Firewalk and Sony and Concord in totality. It does seem, from what we're hearing, that they had people on the development team who were level-headed, who just wanted to make a good game, and whenever they wanted to discuss the problems that they saw, they were being silenced, which of course sucks. Now, the most shocking was that the game was already spent, had already spent its budget of 200 million by 2021 before Sony even purchased Firewalk Studios, and Concord was allegedly in such bad shape that Sony felt the urgent need to spend another 200 million just to make the game marketable. We are hearing that they basically wanted this to be their Star Wars. They thought that this was going to blow up in popularity, that tons of people were going to love it and enjoy it, and they were going to be able to make this a thing, right? That this game was going to release. It was going to be some massive esports phenomenon. It was going to be like the next Apex Legends or the next CSGO. They, of course, have an episode in the Secret Level anthology series for Concord, which is still airing, even though the game shut down 2 weeks after release. So they were, trying to even make it a TV property. It seemed that they had a lot of merchandise. They recently put that up for sale. And they really wanted this to be some massive smashing success, but the complete opposite happened. Now, this is going down in the history books for all the wrong reasons. And I can't say that I feel all that bad. I can't say that I'm really all that shocked, because for months and years leading up to release, gamers were telling them this looks terrible. If they had delayed it by a year and they had put some more time and work and effort into it, and they made the character designs even half decent, I think people would have played it. I think people would have given it a chance, and I think it would have caught more people's attention. But because the characters look so mediocre, they weren't giving you some massive amount of maps and characters, they weren't giving you a story mode, like it just felt like an extremely lackluster experience. And the fact that we're hearing they allegedly spent over $400 million is absolute insanity. I personally think that this is still a little bit questionable, because that means that they spent $500 to $600 million in totality, again, with the purchase of the studio. So I'd be very interested to see if anybody else comes out and confirms this, even if not directly. We do know that, of course, just yesterday we saw the departure of Concord's developer. So will they speak out? Is that the individual who reached out to Colin? We don't know at this point, but it sounds like they spent a whopping $400 million in development costs on Concord, and it's great to see, because this was a DEI shooter and it was an epic failure. Maybe Sony will get the message. Maybe they'll start understanding this isn't the type of content that people want to consume. Is $600 million going to make them change their mind and their stance? Who knows? Only time will tell, but it's definitely very interesting to see. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.